Few people trust those who break their promises and their oaths. Even fewer deities trust those who break their oaths. In some places, such as Herald, the fates listen to those who try to weave their own paths, favoring those who keep their word and stacking the decks against those who try to manipulate others. While there are many different names for many different fates, in Herald they are all in agreement. You will keep your word. Even if that word spoken was dishonest, even if it was made in anger, or if it was never intended to be kept. If you make an oath or a promise to the fates will hold you to it. Roxanne Weird was angry. She never knew she could be this angry. Her parents recently came home with her new little brother, a boy who wasn't even named yet. Tradition dictated that they waited until his first birthday before he could be named. Too many children died too young in Roxanne's family for the tradition to mean anything else. The graveyard was full of weird children whose lifespan were measured in months, weeks, days, hours, or even minutes. The only names was baby boy, baby girl, and sometimes just baby. But if the baby could live longer than a year, then he would have a good long life. That same graveyard was full of weirds who lived to be 80, 90, 100, and even a few 110-year-olds. Her great aunts were proof of that. While Roxanne was outside of the house, while the rest of the family gushed and cooed over her little brother, 3 of her great aunts were on the porch with her, all of them spinning and working on a vast tapestry, a tapestry larger than any blanket that Roxanne had seen, a tapestry that told the story of the Weird family. "You don't want to see your brother?" Prima asked Roxanne, who shook her head. "I don't get why they love him so much. He looks like unformed dough, so squishy and squashed. I can't even hold him. Why do they all love him so much?" Roxanne asked, as Secunda responded. "Families love new babies. They can grow to be anything. They're in love with the unformed future in his unformed body. He can't speak today, but tomorrow he might be leading. Plus, newborn babies are cute on their first day, almost as cute as an elder on their last day," Tertia mused. Roxanne was used to the strange way her aunt spoke as she stared out at the stars above. "I wish they didn't have a baby. Why did they have to have a baby now?" Roxanne said, looking out into the darkness. "Why wish for that?" Prima asked. "So that way they can love me again. Your family still loves you. Tonight we are celebrating your brother. Tomorrow we can celebrate you," Secunda responded. "You have many celebrations in the future. Your family has no idea if this is the only one with your brother," Tertia mused. Roxanne only half listened to their words. "I still hate him. I'm not going to share a birthday with him. I will never share another birthday with him," Roxanne said, while her great aunts paused in their fibercraft. "Is this something you sincerely mean?" Prima asked. "It is, more than anything in the world, aunties," Roxanne said. "Your hands will never be clean again, if that is what you promise," Secunda responded. "Clean hands often believe they can be dirtied. Unclean hands rarely believe they can be cleaned," Tertia mused. Roxanne faced her aunts. She could see it in their eyes. They wanted her to apologize, to say sorry, to say it was a joke, something she didn't mean, something she just said because she was throwing a temper tantrum. They were trying to give her a way out. But in that moment, all she could think was how it was her birthday that day too, and everyone else was preferring to spend it with her baby brother, who was born today. "Aunties, I will never share another birthday with my brother." "Even if it kills him?" Prima asked. "Even if it kills him," Roxanne answered. An oath made with us cannot be unmade. If you make a promise, you will keep that promise, Secunda responded. A thread that's cut too long can be cut short. A thread that's too short can never be made long, Tertia mused. Roxanne's final chance to stop, to finally fix it. Instead, Roxanne spoke. I swear to you, aunties, I will never share another birthday with my baby brother, even if it kills him, Roxanne said as her great aunts checked their tapestry. Cutting the thread. A single thread in the tapestry. A thread that wasn't meant to be cut so soon. A scarlet thread that, for now, wasn't going to be missed. Barely noticed even when held by the weird sister's hands. Already, though, the tapestry was starting to fray and would fall apart, eventually. But that was only clear to the three weird sisters, not their grand niece. Taking the discarded scarlet thread, Prima, with practiced hands, wrapped the red thread around Roxanne's wrist. Secunda, with skilled fingers, tied the two ends of the thread together, the beginning and the end forever meeting at the same place. Then Tertia, with practiced pride, pulled out a lighter to lightly score the thread, tightening it like a noose around Roxanne's wrist. Does it hurt? Prima asked Roxanne, who examined her new gift, shaking her head. Not at all. The flame didn't touch my skin. That wasn't the hurt she was asking about. But wounds don't always appear when you are struck, Secunda responded. Sometimes it takes time for pain to bubble to the surface. When it does, it blisters, it putrefies, and festers, far worse than any flame, Tertia mused as Roxanne took a deep breath. A lot of her hurt was now gone for some reason. She figured she still couldn't handle being around her brother. Still, there were drinks and food inside that she could have. All while Roxanne was inside with the rest of her family, the three weird sisters were doing their best to find a way to keep the tapestry together, with one thread cut too short. They pondered what other threads would have to be made longer, and which other ones would need to be cut short for the tapestry to be held together. In the weeks and months that followed, Roxanne didn't think about the promise she made with her aunts. Sure, she still had the scarlet thread around her wrist, and she remembered talking with her aunts, but she didn't think about the promise. As time went on, she got to know her brother more, and he began to grow, and she started to love him more, and her anger was soon forgotten and discarded. It wasn't until 9 months after his birth, and when she tried to cut the thread off her wrist, did she realize what she did. The scissors she grabbed couldn't cut the thread. The blades just stopped, unable to cut the thread, like it was made of stone. Even when Roxanne tried forcing the scissors shut, it only broke the scissors. She then tried slipping it off her wrist, but the thread wouldn't budge off her wrist. It moved easily enough and loosely enough when she wasn't trying to move it, but the moment she tried to remove it, the scarlet thread clutched to her skin, as tight as if it was a part of her now. In desperation, she tried asking her parents how to get rid of the thread around her wrist. She showed the red thread to her parents, asking how to get rid of it. When she did, her parents did something she didn't expect. They showed her that they had threads as well. Threads she never noticed before, but when they pointed out the threads to her, she could see them clearly. A pink thread that tied their wedding rings together, always long enough to connect them, no matter how far they were. A black thread around her father's neck, one that seemed to cause his neck to blister wherever it touched. Her mother had red threads all over her fingers, all tied back to her wrists. A green thread that tied over their wallets and purses, only allowing them to open the wallets a little. Silver threads that wrapped around various books they owned, keeping their contents from ever being read by them, but still books that they had to keep on their shelves, forever unread, books that might as well be blank for how little it was read. Roxanne's parents explained that if she made a promise to her aunts, that the promise would have to be kept, no matter what the promise was, that her aunts would want that oath fulfilled. They explained that oaths made this way, once made, would always be fulfilled. "Did you make a promise to your great aunts?" her father asked. Roxanne nodded as she tried to explain what she did, only to find that her mouth wouldn't open, like it was sealed shut by thread. "You can't tell us what promise you made, not until after you keep your oath," her mom explained, pointing at the threads on her hands, opening her mouth to explain what it was, only for no sound to escape her lips. "You can't write it down either, but sweetheart, I can tell it isn't something you want to do," her dad said, as Roxanne could only nod, looking down at her hands, now ashamed of what she promised to her aunts. "Is there anything that can be done?" she asked. "No, there isn't. Any action you take will only lead to your promise made. Even if you think you are being clever, even if you think you find a way to get around it, you won't. The best you can do is learn how to live with it," her mother said, looking down at the red threads tied around her fingers and her wrists. "Sometimes there is a way to keep your promise, in a creative way, a different way to keep your promise than you initially thought. The soldier once promised he would make the streets run red. Then he filled the streets with streamers, paint, and red flyers that fulfilled his oath. But you need to be very careful and very clever. The fates only appreciate cleverness if you still keep your word and stay humble. Even a whisper of arrogance, and the fates will show you how hard the fall can be," the father said, touching the black thread around his neck. Roxanne thought long and hard about the exact wording she used with her aunts. She promised that she wouldn't share another birthday with her brother. Then she decided that might be the answer. So simple, but so elegant. "Can we celebrate his birthday early, even by just a day?" Roxanne asked. Her parents were confused for a moment, but they agreed at a glance. It was an easy enough request, and as anyone in Harold could tell you, a simple request was often the most crucial request. "I think we can celebrate his birthday a week early," her mother said. "We'll just say we wanted to avoid celebrating both birthdays on the same day," her dad said, and that seemed to be the end of it. A few more quiet months, then it was invitations set out. The baby's boy's birthday would be celebrated a week early. He eagerly ate his cake, and Roxanne even gave him a gift. A little velvet rabbit that he immediately hugged and seemed to love so much. While most of the guests were celebrating inside, Roxanne found herself outside with her great aunts again. The tapestry a little longer now than they were just the year before. "So, you're celebrating both birthdays on different days?" Prima asked. "We are, and you can see we're not sharing a birthday, and that is because of my own hand," Roxanne said. "Very clever. I think your father thought of something similar when he was your age," Secunda responded. "Sometimes a missed stitch is just a missed stitch, and you can keep weaving," Tertia mused. The three women rocked back and forth. Still, though, Roxanne couldn't help but ask, "Have you ever had someone like me outsmart you before?" she asked. "Outsmart us?" Prima asked, her eyes no longer watching the threads. There is a difference between being clever and outsmarting us, Secunda responded. Her fingers paused. The exact same difference as avoiding a train by ducking on the tracks and avoiding a train by outrunning it, Tertia mused, her lighter now lighting a cigarette. Adults make mistakes too. I know I outsmarted you, Roxanne said. Is it a mistake we made? Prima asked. We made no mistake listening to you, grandniece, Secunda responded. There's still time to duck and cover, Tertia mused. Well, I won. I don't have to keep my promise anyway, and I am going to have a great birthday next week with my little brother, Roxanne said to the silence of her great aunts. Have you had an enjoyable time with your brother? Prima asked, her eyes back to the tapestry. I think there's more enjoyable times to be had with him tonight, Secunda responded. Her counting of the threads began again, one less than it was before. Hit as hard as a train, that's false. Trains hit far softer than we do, Tertia mused. Roxanne didn't notice. Flush with her pride, she made her way indoors, a slight headache in her head and her mouth a little dry. So she helped herself to a drink, sharing the soda with her brother, something her parents didn't want her to do. But she figured if they were going to have a long time to bond and be brother and sister, she could get away with bending the rules once or twice. Does anyone know his name? Prima asked. The parents know. They haven't shared it with anyone yet. They want their daughter to be the first to know it. A birthday gift shared with her, Secunda responded. Shame the first one to know it won't be living, Tertia mused. The birthday party went well. Roxanne hugged all of her relatives and made sure to give all of them plenty of sweets and treats from the party. The next day, after everyone went home, the parents found the baby boy with a rash and a cough in his cradle. Recognizing the rash, the parents brought the baby child to the hospital to get it treated. They recognized these symptoms. They had seen it many times. The killer of children, the scourge of bloodlines, the Red Death, Apollo's arrow, scarlet fever. The doctors put the boy on fluids and antibiotics immediately. Then Roxanne's symptoms appeared, the first spot of her rash appearing on her hand, the same hand with the scarlet thread. She was treated by the doctors as well, but the doctors, after the first few hours, had terrible news to give the parents. For whatever reason, the scarlet fever wasn't responding to antibiotics, and it was getting worse. Then other members of the family soon were in the hospital, not to visit Roxanne and her young brother, but because they too were ill, with scarlet fever also resistant to antibiotics, as they were quarantined together. Their fevers worsened, their throats sore, their heads pounded, and in that state, between sleep and wakefulness, where she could be free of the infection for just a moment, she could see her aunts working on the tapestry. It was fraying, falling apart, the threads unraveling quicker than it could be weaved. But they didn't seem to care. They continued their work as normally as they would any other day. A short thread was tugged, and with it many longer threads were being pulled with it. Please, help me, Roxanne whispered to her aunts. Why trust us to help you? Prima asked. Because we keep our word, Secunda responded. Easier to outrun a train than to outrun fate, Tertia mused. If you won't help me, save him at least, Roxanne whispered to the aunts. She wasn't sure or were there in quarantine with her. You broke your promise. Why should we break ours? Prima asked. Because if she dies, then they won't share a birthday and he can live, Secunda responded. Noble people nobly avoiding their responsibilities with their noble sacrifices, Tertia mused. Please, take me. Save him. That'll keep my promise, Roxanne croaked. How does that keep your promise? Prima asked. A thread cut short cannot be made long again, Secunda responded. Those who bear the most responsibility for a transgression believe themselves the safest from its harsh bite, Tertia mused, as Roxanne's eyes began to close, listening to her aunt speak. When you rest, will you dream? You will dream for a long time. I hope you love the tapestry that you weave. On December 25th, 2761 AUC, a family grew considerably smaller, a complex tapestry with its heart torn out, a single lost thread that unraveled the threads both close and far from it. Still, though, even with it frayed and with holes in it, the tapestry still was a tapestry. In time, the gaps may close. They may even become something beautiful. But at the same time, the pattern was irreversibly changed, and it would never be able to go back to what it was. Roxanne woke up that night, her antibiotics finally having an effect on her scarlet fever, and though she lost 3 aunts, 2 uncles, 16 cousins, and 1 brother, she didn't lose everyone. When Roxanne woke up, she saw her mother was sitting by her bedside, her parents miraculously the only ones in the family untouched by the Red Death. Roxanne, realizing that she was alive, could only mean one thing. My brother? She asked as her mother, with her eyes full of tears, only shook her head. He didn't make it. He didn't make it a year. He didn't make it a year. Didn't even get his name, Roxanne's mother said, looking down at the red thread on her fingers and wrists. I thought, Roxanne began as her mother responded. Yeah, I thought the same. Not just once, again and again. And every time, her mother said, as Roxanne said, I offered my own life. I thought that would have kept my promise, she said as her mother sighed. There's a reason I said you will need to learn to live with it. They won't let you sacrifice yourself to get out of your promises. You made a promise, and you will keep it, whether you want to or not. You will have to face the consequences of your promise, both good and terrible, and you will never be able to forget it, she said, pointing at the scarlet thread around Roxanne's wrist. There is nothing we can do to change what has already happened. We will learn to accept it, eventually. But we will never forget this. We still love you, baby girl, but we will never forget your brother either, Roxanne's mother said, her grief still in the air. Much was left unsaid, but all Roxanne could think about was how what she said in anger a year ago cost her so much of her family, and she couldn't help but wish that she was less angry a year ago. She wanted to be angry now. She wanted to swear revenge against her great aunts. She wanted to scream. She wanted to throw something. She was hurting, and she wanted to hurt someone else to make it fair. And she could tell her mother was angry as well, looking down at her hands, covered in red threads. More red threads on her hands than was there just last week. But after what her anger cost her before, Roxanne was aware of just how much more family she could lose in her anger. If she tried making more oaths when angry, instead she breathed in and out, her anger cooling in her body as she asked her mom, "Can I have some orange juice?" she asked as her mother smiled and said she would get a nurse to get her some juice. It would take the sick family members weeks to recover, and even then they weren't fully well again. They got sick easily, and every time they got sick, they were all too aware of how close Tertia's scissors were to their threads. And while normally the Weirds lived until at least their 80s, they began to die at a younger age, lucky to break 60 years old. As Roxanne got older, she learned more from her parents about how to see the threads and to understand the fates a little better. Not to understand why or how they shaped fate, but to understand how to keep promises without hurting everyone around them. She was taught how the colors of the thread had nothing to do with the type of promise made, and entirely to do with the emotion felt when that promise was made. While Roxanne's parents gathered more and more threads on their bodies, Roxanne's thread always remained singular. But still, it was always heavier than all of her parents' threads combined.